Am I successful? Now, that's a question that I've asked myself almost every day for the last 4 years. And more often than not, that's a question that's been met with the answer, no. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in asking myself that question, and I'm sure I'm certainly not alone in having days when that answer has been no. So let's change that. I feel like I've always had a determination to succeed, but this idea of success didn't really occur to me until my teenage years. And after my most successful failure, not getting into my top university choice, I took an unexpected gap year. And through that year, I got an immense amount of experience and knowledge outside of the linear tunnel of education. And what that meant was that when I went to university, I craved more than just the degree and the academics. Through personal networking, through internships, my professional network grew and developed. And before I knew it, I was in my second year of university with 2 part-time jobs in high-growth startups, also organising all of the university social events, and a roster of panel discussions for Women in Business Society. Now, to anybody on looking that, they might have said, wow, you're so successful. The reality was far from it. I was permanently exhausted. I was completely burnt out. And as I'm sure a lot of people in the audience today will know, when assessment deadlines roll round, I became even more exhausted, so burnt out to the point where I was in a real deep mental hole that took at least 2-3 weeks to get myself out of. Now, even though I was doing all of these things, I never felt successful or proud. I always felt, in fact, that I could be doing more. So I did. I took on extra opportunities at the university. I even acquired another job in a startup and managed to secure myself a summer internship in a management consultancy firm. I thought I was on a one-way trip to success. But actually, I was on a one-way trip down a dark alley to extreme burnout and mental exhaustion. Now, I had some tutors that, took me aside and said, do you really think what you're doing is correct? I ended up having a really tough assessment period where at 4 a.m. on deadline day, with no sleep, I still had thousands of words to write. Somehow I managed to push through to the last minute. I managed to submit. But I was filled with absolute dread that everything that I just submitted, all of the thousands of non-proofread work, I completely failed. And the weeks following that were filled with anxious days and sleepless nights. I really, really thought that I'd messed up. And those tutors pulled me aside, and that discussion really made me realise that actually doing more wasn't making me more successful. In fact, running in a circle as quickly as I could without any direction wasn't getting me very far in terms of distance. It was just depleting my energy. It was making me completely exhausted. Now, when people discuss things like breaking points and the events leading up to a paradigm shift where you look at perspectives completely differently, that was my moment. That was my moment when I realised that doing more wasn't getting me any closer to my goals of being successful. From that moment on, I decided to embark on a personal journey to figure out what success really meant for me and how I should be prioritising things that truly matter to me, as opposed to the things that up until that point I've been ignoring. We often throw the word successful around like it's the largest compliment that you could give somebody. But in actual fact, it's impossible to define as an absolute. We cling to common denominators of success, such as money, power, lavish lifestyles, career titles. We're all guilty of it. We say, wow, you're so successful because you got that pay rise. Well, do we even consider how that person feels? The dictionary defines success as the accomplishment of an aim or purpose, which means that everybody's true DNA is intertwined in what success means to you. It depends on your goals as a person, the values that you believe in, what really truly matters to you. So why do we cling on to these common denominators so much? But with all of this rational thought in place, why is it that we're all still stuck in this constant rat race to be successful? Whether we know it or not, our success journeys start on day one of our lives. Benchmark clocks, what any of us should be doing at any one point, exist in every single society and environment across the world. These ideas are further nuanced down by age, gender, religion, culture, and even how we interpret these pressures ourselves. At babies, things like learning to talk and walk are widely celebrated as success. I have a 5-month-old nephew, and after the intensely emotional and overwhelming moment of holding him for the first time, I cluelessly asked, when will he start talking? When you move on to school, you're in the education system. Academic success is often the largest triumph of success in that age of your life. Things like getting high grades, and I certainly found that the higher the grade, the higher the praise. And at that really particularly difficult time, we also find those societal trends of success, like being cool, wearing the right clothes, having lots of friends, start to wave in. At this really impressionable age, we're taught these really binary expressions of success. And we're taught to look at what other people are saying is successful. It's all about the environments we exist in and the people that we encounter. Now, as we grow up, we reach adulthood, success can start to mean things like job status, income, buying a house and settling down. But make the most of your youth. Don't wish away your futures. As a 23-year-old, I feel an immense amount of pressure right now to be putting down my roots, to be solidifying my future, but to be making the most of the time when I don't have any responsibilities. Now, this pressure is really compounded as well by the influx of success stories we see on social media. I'm sure we've all seen celebrities flying around the world on a Tuesday and thinking, wow, I'm just at my desk. It's quite an incredible amount of pressure that we all face in ourselves. And it defines success for us as an external metric, one that we have to look out, we benchmark ourselves against. We look outwards for success and validation, as opposed to looking upwards to, people that we respect and going through those systems as babies and, people going through the education system. We're looking up for validation. Now we're benchmarking ourselves against others, using other people's success to say whether or not we're successful ourselves. Now, I want you to think back to those people that we just discussed. What about the baby that has hip dysplasia and through surgery and time healing takes their first steps at 2 years old, but their siblings took their first steps at 10 months? What about the teenager that turns 18 and decides, I don't want to go to university. Instead, I want to travel the world. I want to work for a charity. I want to do good things, but I'm going to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to earn lots of money. What about the woman that decides that her mental and physical health is in decline because her job is just working her too hard? So she gives up her dream job, her high-paying salary, in favour of looking after her well-being. Where are all of those successes on percentile charts or benchmark clocks? Now, it would be really ignorant of me to say that all of those things are successful or unsuccessful. So instead, I'll call them for what they are: great achievements. You see, when we call somebody successful or we say, wow, what a success, we're imprinting our own success template onto others. We're using our own benchmarks of success and trying to reaffirm that success is something that we should look for externally, validated by other people, stuff that we don't look for within ourselves. When we say things like, you are so successful, we also ignore the silent battles that happen, the hardships that people face on a daily basis. These sorts of things that we don't see, we don't realise. And by saying, wow, you're so successful to something that may mean nothing to them, you're telling them that the silent battles need to stay silent. I want you all to think about a famous entrepreneur. I know there's a lot that come to mind when I say the word entrepreneur. Think about why we might call them successful. We might marvel at their wealth, at the fact that they're sending rockets into space. We may marvel at the fact that they have all of these houses, that they're so successful, they've achieved so many things. What are we really commenting on? Are we really commenting on the sacrifices they've made, their relationship dynamics? Are we talking about their happiness levels, how healthy they are? I guarantee those were probably not some of the things that came in mind when you thought of your most successful entrepreneur. Now I want you to really consider somebody that you truly champion, somebody that you truly find successful. Now, I'm saying not necessarily somebody that's a celebrity or a famous entrepreneur. Maybe it's closer to home. Maybe it's a family member, a friend. Somebody that you really do truly find successful. Do you know the goals that they're trying to achieve? Do you know the personal battles they're going through? Do you know the hardships that they've faced and the amount of dedication and time that they have put in to the job that they are doing now that makes them successful? If the answer of any of that was yes, I want you to consider the difference between those celebrities and those entrepreneurs that you marvel against, that you class as so successful, compared to the people that you truly subconsciously think, wow, you've achieved what you set out to achieve. Has anybody here had a really difficult week? They wake up and things just seem so much more difficult than usual. It may be that you don't have any energy, You may just be feeling overwhelmed for no apparent reason. The days just seem like a large slog, like you're wading through thick mud just to see another day ticked off. I know over the last 12 months, the pandemic has really gotten to me a couple of times. And I've had many of those days where I just wish they were over in the hope that the next day I wake up, I'd feel much better. And on those days, sometimes they don't even start before they're tough. I'm sure everybody here has had a day in their life where they've woken up and the idea of getting out of bed has been physically and mentally exhausting. But I want to ask you this. Of all of those days, how many times did you get up? How many times did you get to the end of that day? See, that's a massive success in my book. But how many of those times have you turned up and thought, wow, nobody is noticing how much energy I've put in here to just even turn up right now? How many times did you feel that nobody acknowledged it? Nobody said, wow, that's just a massive success. You felt ignored. You felt like you were invisible. Success is kind of similar in that way. People aren't necessarily always going to be there for the small goals, the silent ones. They'll be there on the sidelines for buying a new house or having a baby, graduating from university, or all of these big goals, getting a new job. But how many of them are going to be there to celebrate the silent battles, the ones where the difference between your goal and your ability to achieve it is absolutely unfathomable? I want you to also think about this. If there was a tree in a forest and it fell, but nobody was there to see it, did it happen? If that same tree fell next to a house and caused mass devastation, it caused an immeasurable amount of financial and emotional devastation to a family, did it happen? The answer to both of those questions is yes. Just because one was more visible to other people and impactful doesn't make it any more real. Success works in a similar way. There's a lot of hardships and battles that we all face silently, ones that only we will know that we have achieved, goals that we only set ourselves and never talk to another human being about. And in those situations, we are the only ones that can coin ourselves as successful. Over the course of the last 4 years, I've definitely gone through some emotional roller coasters of understanding whether I'm successful. And in my opening, I said that more often than not, the answer to that question has been no. But over those 4 years, I've started to define a structure that helps me feel much better about defining myself as successful. I've structured it down into 3 pillars. 3 pillars that we can all structure our thoughts in to try and help ourselves feel more successful in ourselves and look inwards rather than outwards for external validation. The first pillar, define your values and principles. What really matters to you? What means that you can put your head on the pillow at night and sleep easy? What makes you you, and what are you really fighting for in life? Now, the list for this can be absolutely endless. My personal values: I want to be a good person. I think we all do. I want to be compassionate. I want to be empathetic. But I also want to have boundaries. I want to respect myself. I want to be able to say, no, I can't do that commitment because I value my well-being as well as being hardworking and dedicated to my career. And at this point, you've got to be really selfish about it. I don't think enough ownership is given to us to define really what we want in life. It's so easy to click onto these common denominators of success, money, power, lavish lifestyles, and think that that's what our goals need to be. Our values need to be orientated towards that. In this section, think freely and with energy. Think what you really want to be in life and the person you want to become. Next up is your long-term goals. Really think about your true ambitions, your true dreams. And in this section, it's really difficult to not conform back to the environments we exist in, our cultures, our societies, our friends, our family. I'm sure we've all heard the idea of going to a family party and them saying, are you married yet? I mean, the answer is still no. But really think about what your goals are. You don't have to get too specific. There's no need to start Googling SMART goals or, put really detailed deadlines into what you want to achieve in life. Just have some real key details of your biggest ambitions, your true dreams. And finally, short-term goals. Now, these probably are more spontaneous. They might be smaller steps in terms of your long-term goals, or they may even just be getting out of bed in the morning. These are ones that you need to make space for, whether it's waking up in the morning and jotting them down in a journal, or making a mental note throughout the day of when they occur. But tick them off the list and weight all of them equally. It doesn't matter if it's getting out of bed, speaking up in a meeting that you don't feel confident enough in, or potentially even signing up to that job application that you've been putting off for ages. These are all small goals that can be achieved and can deem you as successful. When we think of success, we often think of it as a destination on a map, visible to everybody. And in a lot of cases, other people have already reached that destination ahead of us. And it's pressurized. In reality, we all have our own maps in life, blank ones that we need to populate with our thoughts, our feelings, our destinations, our goals. Once we've done that, we can realize that maps change. As every day goes by, your map can shift in distance and destination, in size and in shape. Life can fragment at the drop of a hat. Take the pandemic, for example. Nobody predicted that. Before you know it, your goals can seem further away than ever, and it's really easy to get deflated. But wake up the next day and you could take a massive leap into what you thought was unachievable in life. You should be accepting that your goals will change over time. Understand that even if a small success seems small today, it could seem big tomorrow. And go with it with this. Go with it with your design templates of these goals, because you never know where you might end up. When you think about these destinations and you think about them being static and dynamic, we often think that we can all achieve these goals. It's just, one set of goals that we will all hope to achieve one day. Success is just one journey where the destination will lead us to greatness. Success is about acknowledging and celebrating all of those individual steps on your journey. And without knowing where you're going, how do you truly know that you've got there? We're all successful. We just might be looking in the wrong places to validate it. Thank you.